In the 13th century, Marco Polo spent 17 years traveling through the Mongol Empire. He was a careful observer, a merchant, a man who dealt in facts. And here is what he wrote about Mongol warriors on their longest marches. When necessary, they will ride for as long as 10 days without eating or making a fire, living only on the blood of their horses, each piercing one of his horse's veins and drinking the blood. 10 days, no food, no fire, crossing some of the most hostile terrain on earth. The horse that carried them was also feeding them. This is the final piece of the Mongol survival system, and it is the most extreme. The system you already know. If you have been following this series, you already know how the Mongol army fed itself under normal conditions. Borts, compressed dried meat that lasted months in a coat pocket, made by pounding cooked horse meat thin and drying it until it weighed almost nothing but delivered dense protein on the march. Rule, dried milk curd pressed into hard pieces that delivered 35 to 40 grams of protein per 100 grams, lasted years without refrigeration, and could be sucked slowly on horseback or dissolved in hot tea in under a minute. Rog, fermented mare's milk produced automatically in leather bags strapped to the saddle, delivering vitamin C, probiotics, hydration, and mild alcohol in a drink the horse made for you while you rode it. 3 foods, all produced from horses, all requiring no fire, no supply wagon, no stopping. Under normal campaign conditions, this system kept an army of 100,000 men moving 60 miles a day across 3 continents. But there were conditions that were not normal. There were moments when the campaign pushed beyond what even this system could cover. Crossings of vast desert steppe, 10-day forced marches where stopping to prepare any food at all was not possible. Moments where the Mongol warrior had nothing left. For those moments, there was one final option. The horse as last resort. Every Mongol warrior rode with a string of between 3 and 5 horses. He rotated mounts throughout the day so no single animal wore out. And he deliberately chose to ride lactating mares whenever possible. This was not an accident. It was a calculated strategic decision. A lactating mare provided milk directly on the march, milk that could be drunk immediately, fermented in the saddlebag into rog, or dried into rule over time. She was a mobile food factory that reproduced her own supply every few hours, simply by eating grass. But when everything else ran out, when Bortz was gone, when rule was gone, when the rog flask was empty, and when there was no time to stop, the warrior turned to the horse itself for one final resource. He would identify a vein in the horse's neck. He would make a small, controlled cut, not deep, not reckless, but measured. He would let the blood flow into his mouth or into a vessel, take what he needed, and then seal the wound. The horse was not killed. The horse was not even seriously harmed. A healthy horse can lose a small volume of blood without significant effect, in the same way that blood donation works in modern medicine. The Mongols understood this through centuries of living alongside these animals. They knew exactly how much to take. That horse would not be ridden again until it had recovered. The warrior switched to another mount from his string and kept moving. The system was so precise that Marco Polo specifically noted the warriors would drink until they had had enough and then staunch the wound. This was not desperation slaughter. What blood actually delivers? Here is the nutritional reality of what the warrior was consuming. Animal blood is approximately 77 calories per 100 milliliters. It is roughly 18 grams of protein per 100 grams, almost entirely in the form of hemoglobin. It is extraordinarily rich in heme iron, the most bioavailable form of iron that exists, absorbed by the human body at a dramatically higher rate than the iron found in plant foods. For a warrior who had been riding for days on minimal food, the iron delivery alone was significant. Iron is the mineral that carries oxygen in the blood. A warrior with depleted iron is a warrior who tires faster, thinks slower, and performs worse under physical stress. A few swallows of blood on a 10-day forced march replaced that iron in a form the body could use immediately. It also provided hydration. Blood is roughly 90% water. In a desert crossing, where water sources were scarce and contaminated water was potentially lethal, drinking blood from your own horse was both hydration and nutrition in a single act. And critically, unlike contaminated river water, blood taken directly from a healthy living animal carries no waterborne pathogens. The horse's immune system had already done the filtration work. The Mongols did not know the biology behind any of this. But the practice worked. It had been refined over generations of nomadic life, and it kept men alive on marches that should have killed them. The complete step. Step back and look at what the Mongols had actually built. A fully self-contained mobile survival system requiring no external supply chain, no farming, no grain wagons, no dedicated logistics corps. The horse ate grass, which grew everywhere on the steppe for free. The horse produced milk, which became arul, irog, and emergency hydration. The horse carried meat, which became borts when dried and compressed. The horse provided blood, which became emergency nutrition and hydration on the most extreme marches. And when an individual horse finally could no longer serve, when it was injured or aged beyond usefulness, it was slaughtered. The meat was eaten. The hide became a container. Nothing was wasted. The Mongol warrior was not dependent on a supply line that could be cut by an enemy. He was not waiting for a grain shipment that could be delayed by weather. He carried everything he needed on the backs of the animals running alongside him. This is why the Mongol army could appear, seemingly from nowhere, in places that no other military force in the world could reach. They didn't need roads. They didn't need farms. They didn't need the infrastructure of civilization to sustain themselves because they had built a better system. One medieval scholar wrote that the Mongols need no commissariat nor the conveyance of supplies, for they have with them sheep, cows, horses, and the like quadrupeds, the flesh of which they eat, naught else. As for their beasts which they ride, these dig into the earth with their hoofs and eat the roots of plants, knowing naught of barley. And so, when they alight anywhere, they have need of nothing from without. Nothing from without. That sentence is the entire Mongol strategic advantage in 4 words. Why this matters now. There is a lesson in this that goes beyond history. The Mongol survival system was built around a single principle. Every resource does multiple jobs. The horse is transport and food and water and shelter material. The milk is nutrition and hydration and fermented drink and dried travel food. The blood is emergency protein and iron and hydration. Nothing in the system exists for a single purpose. Modern preppers tend to think in single-use categories. Food is food. Water is water. A container is a container. You stock each separately. You store each separately. You plan for each separately. The Mongols thought in systems. Each element of the system fed into every other element. The horse ate the grass. The milk fed the warrior. The warrior rode the horse. The horse got stronger on the grass. The system fed itself. 800 years before anyone wrote a book about sustainable systems design or circular resource management, the most successful military force in human history had already solved the problem. Not with technology, not with infrastructure, with a different way of thinking about what resources actually are. The alternate past isn't that far away. This is the 4th and final video in the complete Mongol survival system series. If you have watched all 4, Borts, Arul, Irog, and this one, you now understand how an army fed itself well enough to conquer more land than any force in history. We are leaving Mongolia now. Next, Rome. The Roman army solved the same problems the Mongols solved, on the same scale, using completely different methods. Same question. How do you feed hundreds of thousands of men moving fast through hostile territory with no supply chain? Different answer, equally brilliant. That video is already up. Link is in the description. If this is your first video in the series and you want to start from the beginning, the Borts video is where it starts. Subscribe and hit the bell. The Roman series is going to be just as deep.